Hello everyone, it's Shauna. Last video I said that I would talk about being pregnant and giving birth to Kevin, my firstborn, who happens to be 34 now, which is hard to believe it's been that long ago. But he was born in 1987, so that explains a lot. But anyways, I was excited. I was excited to be a mom. Ever since I was a little girl, I wanted to be a mom. I wanted to be a mom, I wanted to be a nurse, and I wanted to be a teacher. And becoming a mom was the first goal that I hit, although rather young, but I did become a mom. And Alan was Alan was proud of me and he loved me and he took really good care of me. And but he never wanted to talk about having the baby. It was weird because I'd always want to ask him, what do you want to do about names? Or, we should be picking out names. And he'd always be like, oh, I don't want to talk about it. We'll worry about that later. We got plenty of time, plenty of time, plenty of time. And then I got really frustrated. I don't know how far along I was, but I got really frustrated and I started to cry and I said, you don't even care enough to talk about our baby's names and, blah, 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 whatever. I was really emotional. And so he felt bad, so we decided that we were going to think about names. So if Kevin had been a girl, the name we picked out was Amanda. I don't remember what the middle name was, but I knew he would have been an Amanda. If he was a boy, obviously he was Kevin, but the Alan originally wanted to name him Kevin Kyle Knapp. And I was like, oh, no, no, I'm not having this. I'm not giving my little baby the initials K, K, K when he's born. I said, no, that's horrible. And Alan agreed with me, so we came up with the middle name Alan because it's named after his dad, so he is Kevin Allen. And so he was born and he was a boy. And I, the labor, I'll get into the labor, but the morning sickness. Oh my gosh, I had the worst, horrible morning sickness of all time. And oh, thinking about it makes me sick, kind of. But from the time I woke up until the time I went to bed, I was sick, and I tried to eat, and it all come up, and it was horrifying. And but I was gaining weight. I wasn't losing weight. I was gaining weight. I gained over 60 pounds. I was 114 when I got pregnant, and I was like 274 the day went into the hospital to give birth. And the doctors were so mad at me. They're like, Shauna, you have to stop. You got to watch what you're eating and not eat as much, and you got to watch your weight because it's not healthy for you and it's not healthy for the baby. And but I never had gestational diabetes, and I have diabetes now, and I don't know if it's a precursor to it, but like I said, I never had the gestational diabetes within any of my children. So I don't know, but I do have a funny story to tell about that because when they did the original test, it was really high. And so I had to go back and I had to do a longer test, or I had to stay longer after drinking that glucose stuff. Every pregnant mom knows what it is and hates it. And so I drank it, and they take your blood right away. Or they take your blood first, you drink it, and then you come back I think this time it was every half hour. And I don't know. I don't remember exactly how long it was, but I sat there. I think I was doing crochet. I think my mom was trying to teach me how to crochet. She was a wonderful crocheter. I could never pick it up. I don't know. I try and I mess up too much, and it's really frustrating. But anyways, so I was doing that, and this guy sat down across from me. He was a captain, and he was hot. He was so hot. He's like that hot where you can't speak hot. He's just like, oh my God, this is the hottest guy I've ever seen in my life. And he was sitting across from me, and I was just trying to concentrate on what I was doing, with my crochet hooks and stuff. And all of a sudden he goes, Miss, he goes, are you okay? And I'm like, me? Because I couldn't believe he was talking to me. I was like, there's no way in the world that this hot guy is talking to me. Not only did I not have a lot of self-esteem at the time, I was fat because I was pregnant, And I'm just like, yeah, yeah, I'm fine. And he's like, no, ma'am, miss, or whatever. He said, miss, are you okay? Are you okay? And I'm like, yeah, I'm fine. And he started to say something, and I passed out. So, and I didn't wake up until I was being wheeled towards the emergency room, and which was just down the hall. But obviously, I wasn't okay, and I guess he told the nurses that I had just turned like white as a ghost. And I'm pale now, so I can imagine how white I was because he couldn't believe that I wasn't unconscious before that. So, so that was kind of embarrassing, and I've always remembered that incident at that time that I couldn't believe this gorgeous guy was talking to me, but yeah, only because he thought I was really sick, which I was. But anyways, so when I went into labor with Kevin, I had an appointment that day, and I think it was like 9 o'clock in the morning, 10 o'clock in the morning. But when I woke up, my mucus plug had fallen out, and but I didn't think much of it and stuff. And I was having a little bit of contractions, and they didn't hurt very much, and they were just every 5-10 minutes apart. And back then at the base, I don't. It could have just been Williams because Williams was really small, but they had like the waiting room, and then you had this other little area off to the side that was, it wasn't closed off or anything, but you went back in kind of like you'd think what the military would do. And that's where they took your vitals and asked you if things were going on and stuff like that. And I remember I had told her that my mucus plug had come out and that I was having these contractions every 5 to 10 minutes. And she's like, oh my gosh. So they sent me immediately to the emergency room again. So I was down there, the on-call physician, it might even have been my doctor, came down to see me, which was Dr. Bennett. And he, they were like, well, this is your first baby. It's going to be, it's definitely not going to be today. You'll be lucky if you have the baby tomorrow, and go home, get some sleep, get some rest, or get ready for your baby, all that fun stuff. So, being 18 years old, 18 years old, I'm like, okay, I didn't know. I was very naive. I didn't know a lot about, anything medical or anything like that, or having, I loved babies and stuff, but I didn't know a whole lot about being pregnant and all that. So we went home, and as the day progressed, my contractions were getting stronger and stronger and stronger and stronger. And I know when they checked me in the emergency room, I was dilated to 1. So at about 6 o'clock at night, I told my husband, I said, I can't do it. I want to go back to the emergency room. And he's like, are you sure? And I said, yes, it hurts too much. I just want to go to the emergency room. So he's like, okay. So he took me back down to the emergency room, and they admitted me. And, well, I don't know if they admitted me, but they took me back. And I was only dilated to 1. My contractions were steady at about 3 minutes apart. So the doctor on call, this one wasn't my doctor, he gave me 2 pills, a sleeping pill, and he told me to take it right then. And then he said, go home. If you're not asleep in half an hour, I want you to take the other sleeping pill. So I didn't question it. I did it. I went home. I took the sleeping pill, went home. Half hour later, I still wasn't asleep. I took the sleeping pill, and I'll tell you, hours later, I still wasn't asleep, and those contractions were hard as heck. But they had told me tomorrow at the earliest, if you're lucky. And so I'm like, okay, I'm not going to go back because I went twice already, and they sent me away. And it was frustrating. Even as a kid, it was frustrating. You're like, because women know their body. And even if you don't know much about labor and pregnancy, you kind of know your body. You know when the baby's coming, or you feel it. Even if you don't know for sure, you feel something. So it was about midnight. Oh, and before that, I have to tell you this terrible thing I did. I would kind of run and like jump into the couch because it would make my stomach feel better when I was having contractions. I don't know if it was the running or if it was the stomach hitting the couch. I don't know. I know it was a stupid thing to do. Like I said, I was 18. I was going into labor. I was scared. I was home because the doctors didn't want me at the hospital. And in their defense, though, a little bit of their defense, Williams Air Force Base was getting ready to close. And at that time, they only kept one doctor, and he was on call during the week, and then he was on call every other weekend. So every other weekend, we didn't have the doctor there. So if you went into labor on the weekend that the doctor wasn't there, you went downtown to one of the hospitals. I'm not sure if it was Mesa Lutheran or one of those hospitals at the time. And that's where you'd have your baby, and the military would cover it. So, but I happened to go into labor on a Friday night, and we went to the emergency room. And it had to be a little bit before midnight because I know they called Dr. Bennett in to come to check me out and stuff, because the nurse checked me out and I was still at 1. But what had happened was, after I was doing that thing with the couch, I told Alan I couldn't take it anymore. I said, I feel like I'm going to die. I said, I can't do it anymore. And they were coming faster and faster and faster. I said, I feel like this baby's almost here. And he's like, okay. So we called the emergency room, and the nurse was real snitty. She's like, well, if you feel like you need to come in, you can come in, but you weren't dilated several hours ago. I don't know why you think you would be now. And we went anyways. I'm like, I don't care. I go, this hurts. We have to go. And so we got in there, and they brought me back again. And this time my contractions were steadily at about a minute apart. And they were strong. Oh, they were strong. But when she checked me, I was still only 1 centimeter. But they went ahead and decided to admit me because the contractions were so strong and so close together that they, in case there was an emergency or something, I'm sure that's why they did it. So I was there, and they encouraged us to walk around. So I would try to walk. And I finally sat down in the rocking chair next to the bed, and I was rocking back and forth, and I kind of had this weird feeling. So I stood up, and I walked over towards the window, and my water broke. And so we called the nurse, and she comes in. We're like, my water broke. So she goes, okay, lay down. She checks me, and I was at 2. I was dilated at a 2. But the contractions were stronger than they were before. So they went ahead and called the doctor to come in, and the nurse was doing something. She's like, okay, I'm gonna leave. And I said, no. I said, I gotta push. She goes, you're not dilated enough to push. I said, no, I have to push. The baby's coming right now. And she comes over. She was really irritated, but she came over and she checked me. She's like, oh my God, you are dilated to 10. It's like, I dilate from 1 to 10 in 2.5 seconds. And so the doctor wasn't there, and Kevin was coming. He was coming out. And oh, I was hurting. I was hurting so bad. But my contractions were like 45 seconds apart, and I had had both of those sleeping pills in me, and I would fall asleep between each contraction. And then when the contraction started, I'd wake up and I'd be like, ah, it hurts. And the other thing was, as Alan, he would try to touch me. And I'm like, don't you touch me. But if he tried to leave the room or get away from me, like, you get over here. It's like I didn't want him away from me, but I didn't want him to touch me. It's like, you stand here next to me, but don't touch me. And he was real good about it. At that point in time, he was videoing, but he only videoed over my shoulder because that's kind of what I wanted. I was kind of weird about it. I was young. I was modest, I was just kind of weirded out about it, but that's okay. Anyways, so they were afraid the doctor wasn't going to make it, so they called up for the emergency room doctors or the emergency room techs to come up. And there was about 5 of them that came. And they were young. They were my age, 18, 19, 20, 21 years old. And I was embarrassed. I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm getting ready to have a baby. And these boys that are my age are going to be in here. And I was so mortified that this was going to happen. But before they got all scrubbed up and came in, Dr. Bennett was there. He rescued the day. So he came in and he was having me push, of course, because the baby was coming out. And there was a problem. Kevin had the umbilical cord wrapped around his neck twice. So the doctor had to give me an episiotomy, and actually Kevin had his thumb in his mouth when he came out, and when he was trying to come out, he went like this. So not only did I have the episiotomy, I had extra ripping from him. It was, I mean, I was numb down there, of course. Thank God I was numb down there. But we don't have to go there anymore. But anyways, finally he came out. They unwrapped the cord from his neck, and Kevin was born at 2:09 a.m. on July 18th, his due date. So I went in at 6 the night before, and 8 hours later I had a baby they told me I wasn't going to have for a couple days. He was 8 pounds 4 ounces. I know they did the APGAR score and it was very low at first because of the umbilical cord. When he came out, he wasn't crying. He was very purple. And I know they rushed him away. And he's the only baby I didn't get to touch after. Two babies, actually. My firstborn and my lastborn, I couldn't touch when they were first born because of issues. But they took him away right away, and I remember just saying, what's wrong? And it was like right after that Kevin started crying. So, and he cried and he was fine, and they had to clear his lungs, but he had a low APGAR score. Then they do it again. They did it again, and his APGAR score was much better after that. So they put that little baby boy in my arms, and, well, no, they didn't. Well, maybe they did in the room. I remember they did that in the room. I got to hold him for a brief moment and give him some kisses and stuff. And then they took him away. And then I went to the recovery area. And then I remember they woke me up, and the one mean nurse was there. And she goes, "It's time to go and see your baby." And I'm like, "I don't want to right now." I said, "I can't." It was more I can't than I didn't want to. And she's like scolding me. She's like, "You just had a baby and you don't even want to go see him?" I'm like, "No." I said, "No, I can't." And she goes, "You have to go see your baby. You have to go see him right now." So she got me up out of the bed, and I'm like, "Ma'am, I can't do it. I can't do it." And she stood me up. And as soon as I stood up, passed out again. Right there. And when I woke up and came to, at the first, I looked her right in the eyes and I said, "I told you I couldn't do it." And she goes, "Oh, some patients are such trouble." She was so nasty. But I will say, I wanted a glass of milk after Kevin was born, and I was sitting there, and she was very kind to get me the milk I wanted and to get me ice. Maybe she spit in it, I don't know, but she did do that for me. But anyways, and I had my little Kevin, and my sweet little boy. He was everything I ever wanted, this perfect little baby. And I will say, the poor little boy had black eyes, and the doctor said that it was from the contractions and stuff, because I was having such strong contractions. But in my heart, I think maybe it was because I was ramming my stomach on the couch to make it feel better during my labor at home. I don't know, never know. But I promise you I never did that again with another pregnancy. I promise. But anyways, so that's the birth of Kevin. And next time I will talk about Kyle, his birth, and then get into some better stories. But I wanted to put the births in there. They're fun. So anyways, I hope you enjoyed my video. And if you did, like, subscribe, hit notifications. And I will see you next time.